Everybody to another edition of Illuminati News Hour podcast show right here, Illuminati Radio Podcast, with your host, Pastor Michael Smith, and co-host Sister Big Brim. If you are new to this channel, hit that subscribe button, hit that little bell right there, that notification bell, so you can be notified when we drop some breaking news on you. Hit that like button as you guys come in here. It's very important you do that. If you have your question or comment, put your question or comments down below. You all know. So Kevin Hart gives Chris Rock a goat. Why? And a lot of people say, well, he gave Chris Rock a goat because he's the greatest of all time. But why? Then nobody never wondered why do humans equivalent the greatest of all time to a damn animal, a farm animal. Nobody heard about it. Nobody noticed about that, right? Yo, you the goat. I would not want to be compared with an animal that has 4 legs, you know what I'm saying, with 2 horns, and that sleeps outside. Would you, Sister Big Brim?
No.
Want to be, just call me an animal with 4 legs, you know what I'm saying, and 2 horns, and that eats hay and grass, and that sleeps outside and go bah. And that's a sheep, ain't it?
Yeah, that's a sheep.
That's a sheep. Oh, okay. I don't know how a goat make, what kind of goat noise a goat make. Anyway, let's go ahead and hear this. Sister Big Brim?
Kevin Hart gives Chris Rock a goat on stage at New York City show. Chris Rock and Kevin Hart began their evening at Madison Square Garden with a rather puzzling bang in the midst of a slew of controversies.
Hey, you know, y'all can't read between the lines. Y'all can't read between the lines. What do a goat represent? A lot of people think a goat represents greatest of all times. No, a goat don't represent a greatest of all times. Look at, you ever seen, Sister Big Brim, you ever seen that movie Weekend at Bernie's Part 2?
Yeah.
Yeah, not Part 1, but Weekend at Bernie's Part 2.
I didn't see Part 2.
Oh, you had to see Part 2. Part 2 explain. I think that's why they don't hardly have that part 2 out there. Part 2 explains all about the sacrificial rituals. You know what I'm saying? The 2 black men, you know what I'm saying, was being led by 2 goats.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That Weekend at Bernie's Part 2, you probably can rarely see, you know what I'm saying, find it anywhere. But yeah, that Weekend at Bernie's Part 2, that it got a lot of jewels in it. But a goat represents a sacrifice. Because see, back before Christ, that's what we had to do. We had to bring animals and farm animals for sacrifice. But Christ died that he done away with the law of animal sacrifice. But Satan still deal with animal sacrifice. So with Kevin Hart giving Chris Rock this goat, it's a symbolization of their being sacrificed. I give an example. What was it when Orlando Brown and Nick Cannon got together? What was that called, Sister Big Brim?
When they got together?
Yeah, when Orlando Brown said that Nick Cannon did that thing to him. What's that called?
They were having a sex ritual?
Yeah, it's called a ritual. It's called a ritual. You see, that's called a ritual. It's the same thing. It's the equivalent of Kevin Hart giving Chris Rock a goat. It made to the people look like, oh, he's just giving him a gift. But symbolically, he is telling Chris Rock, thank you for pounding me. Go ahead.
Dave Chappelle was a surprise opener for the co-headlining gig Saturday night, July 23rd, which ended with Hart gifting Rock a gold chain wearing Goat. Had to sneak my way in here. Chappelle donning a Nirvana and
Oh, the
Yotero.
goat had a gold chain on it?
Yes.
Lord, Lord, Lord. So it's a charm and the goat. Because we know what the chain represents. The chain represents a charm. I won't be too surprised if not that goat, not the goat with the gold chain on it, but it was a sacrifice made. Go ahead.
Um, Had to sneak my way in here. Chappelle donning a Nirvana and Yotero t-shirt said after walking on stage to Radiohead's Karma Police, despite what you may have read about in the news, I'm okay and I appreciate the support. Chappelle's 22-minute set comes just days after Minneapolis venue First Avenue canceled his show there due to backlash regarding his unyielding habit of transphobic jokes. After being forced to move locations, the comedian evidently took no notes from the criticism. I can see a transgender hit squad coming from a mile away, he jeered. As if as in ticking off a predictable to-do list, Chappelle brought up his distaste for cancel culture. Rock getting infamously slapped by Will Smith at this year's Oscars and being tackled on stage during his set at Netflix to a joke fest back in May. He quipped that he hoped his attacker, who identified as a bisexual man, contracts monkeypox. Not that he should have died, but his ass should itch for 6 to 8 weeks. The comedian also shouted out his fellow embattled entertainer, Louis C.K., saying, Louis, even if you get in
Sister
trouble.
Big Brown,
Yes.
do you really think Dave Chappelle is going against the LGBT?
No.
He's not. He's not. Oh, Lord. Somebody want to call me. Hold on. Okay. Okay. Like I said, Dave Chappelle is still able to sell out arenas. Dave Chappelle is still able to sell out arenas. Still able to do his shows. Still able to make his money. But when the baby came on stage and said one transphobic joke, what did they do to the baby?
Oh, they canceled him. They went on.
He couldn't do nothing. He couldn't do no shows, no nothing. See, that's how you know that the Dave Chappelle transphobic thing was just propaganda. Because if you were going, you know what I'm saying, if what's good for the goose is good for the gander. If the baby got canceled all the way, Dave Chappelle should have did. Dave Chappelle did more than what the baby did. The baby just said one transphobic joke. Dave Chappelle made a whole show dedicated to it. And a whole movement dedicated to it. And they allowed him to have his platform to do the movement. That's how you know that's propaganda. But go ahead.
The comedian also shouted out his fellow embattled entertainer Louis C.K., saying, Louis, if you get in trouble in the streets, you are my friend. Chappelle, Rock, and Hart all convened for the final 10 minutes of the night. Hart then said he had a present for Rock, which ended up being a goat wearing gold chains to represent that Hart thinks Rock is the greatest of all time. I'm not taking care of that shit, Rock shouted as Chappelle.
I understand you guys say a goat is the greatest of all time, but what's the chains for? Because I know that, you know what I'm saying, when we was prone back in the day, when we was prone to wearing gold chains and, you know what I'm saying, hip-hop gold chains or chains, that represents slavery. So what the hell does a goat wearing gold chains symbolize? Gold chains, slavery, and you are subject to a sacrifice. You are subject to a sacrifice. The gold chains represent slavery. The goat represents sacrifice. Because that's what we used to do, you know what I'm saying, when we was together as a nation. When Israel sinned, we would have to bring a goat or a turtle dove or a ram. We used to have to bring animals for sacrifice. Go ahead.
I'm not taking care of that shit, Rock shouted. As Chappelle chimed in, this is the worst night of this goat's life. Rock then added, he's happy he's not at a Jamaican restaurant. Of course, it wasn't long before the goat decided to use the bathroom while on stage. Hold on.
I bet you damn Kevin Hart says, what you gonna do with that? Put that back in my dressing room. I'm gonna eat that.
How's your first night in show business? Chappelle asked the animal, putting a microphone up to his mouth. What are we going to do? What are we going to call him? He then asked his fellow human performers. Hart's answer, Will Smith. Oh, shoot. Chappelle's transphobia became especially evident following his 2021 Netflix special, The Closer, in which he self-identified as a trans-exclusionary radical feminist and defends fellow TERF J.K. Rowling, GLAAD, the National Black Justice
But you guys
Coalition.
can't see this? This is a black man talking about trans, and he still have his platform. When black men talk about trans, I'll give you an example. What did they do to Kevin Hart when they pulled up a whole lot of transphobic tweets of Kevin Hart? What happened with that, Sister Big Brown?
I don't remember that.
You remember that? Yeah. It was a whole bunch of tweets when they pulled up of years ago. Mm-hmm. They pulled up some old transphobic tweets, and they was canceling him. They was getting rid of him. They didn't want to hear from him. He was being canceled. The LGBT and everybody was coming after him. Until he made that sacrifice in that damn car. But if a celebrity make a transphobic joke, you best believe that person is not going to, the person going to be deplatformed. He's not going to have a platform. You know, even though this person is an agent, but what do you think they keep doing, keep taking down their Little Boosie's platform for? They deplatform you. But yet, Dave Chappelle got a platform. Not only a platform, but he got a movement. Come on. Go ahead.
And members of the LGBTQ community all voiced their repugnance towards the jokes. Openly gay comedian Gerard Carmichael said the topic was an old hill to die on. Even still, the closer nabbed an Emmy nomination. That's it.
So his transphobic platform and movement nabbed the Emmy nomination. And he was being paid for it. But yet the baby said one transphobic joke. And they took away his pay. Okay. We believe you, what's his name is Dave Chappelle. You ain't been the same ever since the Chappelle show. After you came back from Africa, you became a different person. You got fat. You know what I'm saying? You look like you got a little old. You know what I'm saying? Got more wrinkles. You don't look like the same Dave Chappelle from the damn Dave Chappelle show. And no, he's not a clone, people. Stop it. No, he's not a clone. I know that's what y'all coming with next. Anyway. All right, that's going to wrap this up. I want to thank you all for tuning in, logging on to another edition of the Illuminati News Hour podcast show, right here on the Illuminati Radio Podcast Show, with your host, Pastor Michael Smith, co-host, Sister Big Brim. If you are new to this channel, hit that subscribe button and hit that little bell right there next to it so you can be notified when we drop this breaking news on you. Hit that like button as you guys come in here. And if you have any questions or comments, put your questions or comments down below, and I'll try to answer them accordingly. Oh, don't forget, if you want to tune into the nightly Bible study classes, live Bible study classes, and you learn something, you know what I'm saying, go to Facebook and type in 90.1 Israelite Radio. That's 90.1 Israelite Radio. That's on Facebook. Hit that follow button while you're over there, and you can tune into tonight's Bible study class. Amen.